Is there a deficit in digital French language resources? A narrated slideshow by Teresa Francois. This is Sylvie.
Hello.
Sylvie is a French immersion teacher.
Bonjour.
The French immersion curriculum requires that Sylvie spend 80% of the teaching day interacting with her students in French. Most, if not all, of Sylvie's students speak primarily English at home and with their friends. This means that school is the only place where her students are exposed to French and have an opportunity to practice the language. This reality makes maintaining a French language environment, including digital resources, paramount. Sylvie wants to use technology in her classroom, but she's having a hard time finding French language resources. Why is that? Thanks to the internet, finding digital resources ought to be easy. Statistically, around 4% of web pages are in French. This pales in comparison to the 51% of web pages that are in English, but it's a pretty good result considering that roughly 3% of the global population is francophone.
Yippee!
Most of the world's francophones live in either Europe or in Africa. The accents, expressions, and contextual cues used by French speakers from these countries can be unintelligible to French immersion students in Canada.
Mais c'est dans le bip, trop canon!
Content from Quebec, Canada's francophone province, also features spoken French that is heavily accented and often too rapid for novices to interpret.
Voyons donc, mets-toi des oignons!
What's more, resources from Quebec are created to meet the particular curricular needs of that province, so the material might not be applicable elsewhere in francophone Canada. Clearly, teachers like Sylvie who want to use digital resources in the classroom have to spend a lot of time searching and vetting web resources to make sure they're appropriate to their students' needs. So how about apps? Educational apps are released every day, and they are the second most popular category, after games. About 180 educational apps were released on Apple's App Store between June and October of 2017. 41 of these apps were either written in French or had a French language option.
Ça alors?
A lot of these apps were multi-language dictionaries for travelers. They were eliminated from the total. A few more were basic games with little language content and/or educational value. That leaves 22 apps. 5 of the remaining apps were expensive digital supplements for a series of math workbooks from France. Another one was an anatomical atlas for doctors, and 3 more were university-level graphing calculators. That leaves 11 apps, or 6% of total releases, with the potential for integration in a Canadian French immersion classroom. That 6% covers a gamut of age ranges and subject matter, meaning the odds of one being applicable to a particular classroom are pretty low. Unfortunately, searching for an applicable app can take hours since there is no apparent mechanism for filtering App Store results based on operating language. This makes hunting for appropriate apps frustrating to say the least.
I could be watching Netflix instead of searching for apps.
Google's Play Store is even more difficult to navigate since the store does not display language information in its app descriptions. Users can type in a specific search term, but results may not be in the target language even if the website's language is switched. That's because Google asks users to translate app descriptions regardless of the operating language of the app. Users must look at screenshots to confirm whether or not an app is in French. Searching for apps on Canadian geography in the Play Store yielded about 5 times more results for appropriate English apps than for French ones. This is about right as far as ratios go for English to French. It may even be a little generous. So what does this mean for Sylvie and her fellow French immersion and French second language educators? Francophone educational resources can be hard to find, they may be of poor quality, or they may feature content that isn't applicable to a specific age range or context.
Bonjour!
Seeking out and vetting resources can be a time-consuming and frustrating experience for teachers due to poor search functions and filtering in online stores. Some tools are also expensive, a cost that is frequently borne by educators, and the resource may still prove inappropriate after purchase. So, are French immersion and FSL educators forced to resort to using English language resources, therefore depriving students of much-needed exposure to the French language? Or do they simply use technology less? A reluctance to integrate technology in the classroom due to a lack of French language resources could put French immersion and FSL students at a disadvantage compared to their English language counterparts. They might not gain computer and technology skills at the same rate as their peers, or they might not benefit from enhanced learning opportunities thanks to recent technological developments. The question is there a difference between French immersion and English first language classrooms in their respective rates of digital technology uptake? Research into the subject is required to answer the question definitively. Given that most of the planet's students don't speak English, the results of this research might even help guide policy globally for other underserved languages. Thanks for listening. Following are links to the resources I used for my position paper and this slideshow.